Last week, I accomplished a lifelong goal in photography. I finally shot Kiefer Sutherland's portrait. I've wanted to shoot that for the better part of 20 years. It came out so good, better than I could have ever hoped. It's not the same caliber of the Matt Barnes portrait. I seem to use that as a bit of a barometer, but it's still a good photo. So far, a lot of people seem to like the black and white wide lux shots. That camera's always winning hearts and minds. I'm gonna need to get this framed for the studio 100%.
Today, I'd like to bring you on the technical journey and give you every single detail on how it was done. Every piece of gear, the location, the accents and small details you don't see. Every nuanced detail on how we pulled off this shoot in less than 4 minutes. This is the breakdown. That sounded like a new series I was introduced. It's not, it's just, this is the breakdown of the shoot. Too many of those. Like most things, everything does better when it's planned beforehand. Packing for a shoot, practicing a speech, preparing for a test. All of these things have better results when the work is put in before time. I'm not the best for that. I didn't ever study for exams. I don't pack until the night before. I wing most talks that I give. That's just how I roll, just off the top. But when something means enough to you, and it's special enough to you, you owe it to yourself to put in the preparation. And when I'm dealing with a celebrity like Kiefer Sutherland, I don't want to look disorganized. I need to get digital shots, film shots, dial all of that in, and have him on his way in less than 5 minutes. And how do you do that? By preparing. And that started with the location. I thought it would be cool to give it a bit of a bar scene. Jay's showroom would give me that exact look. It's not an actual bar, so I didn't have to close it down or pay a location fee or work around customers. I could kind of get the bar feel without actually having to do all of those things. Jay's shop is naturally warm, which lended to the warm tone that I wanted the photo to look like. Had beautiful window light. I could pack in early, spend the entire day beforehand prepping everything and practicing, so when the day came, I knew what to do. So I decided to sit Kiefer as close to the window as possible and also supplement that window light with a 300x light from Aperture, and I had it dialed in pretty warm.
All right, here is a top-down kind of look at how we lit and set up this shoot in Jay's bar. This is the background, and you've got window 1, window number 2. The back wall runs along this hat wall, which adds a very nice visual interest when you've got multiple hats hanging on the wall in the background for some color, for some pop. I was shooting from right here. Kiefer, Jay, right here. Let's give Jay a little hat, throw a little feather in his hat. Aperture light, right here. Obviously, window 1, we have light source. Window number 2 is lighting a way wider angle of view. Majority of light for this part, that dotted box, is about how much light these windows throw. Now my aperture light, this is a mess. Lighting this way. On top of that, I had a tube light here, here, and they were all doubled up. So there was 6 tube lights. I had candles going down the bar. I had candles on top of the bar. All of these things to the same color temperature so that the whole scene was very, very warm. And you typically would come into a space like this looking at the bar with the great background and you would shoot it this way. That is your angle. But because I'm shooting with 800 ISO using Portra, I'm limited to how fast my shutter speed can be. So I need as much light as possible. So having 1, 2, 3 light sources is what really helped light Kiefer the best while shooting 800 ISO film. Now this background area, which I will highlight, this was, let's call it the haze zone. You'll notice Kiefer is very far from the back wall because I needed that separation distance and I wanted to fill this difference with haze. The closer your subject is to the lens, leaving more haze in the background, the more contrast and sharp that subject will be. It's almost like cheating bokeh. And that mess is how, in a nutshell, the whole scene was laid out.
The reason I needed all of this light is because I decided that I wanted to shoot Kiefer's portrait on film. I thought that just added an elevation to the photo. I've dreamed of shooting this my whole life. There's a bit more risk and I felt like it was just the added feather in my cap if I could pull it off. Now, I will say I did shoot some safety digital photos beforehand, before we got started, just to have those in my pocket in case something went wrong. Typically, I don't do that, but when it comes to someone like Kiefer Sutherland, in a portrait I've wanted my entire life, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, and I did it. So we had the key light, we had the window light, and then I brought a bunch of accent lights for the background. I used Helios tubes at full power to warm up the background of Jay's shop. We lined the bar with candles. We put candles on the bar top, and then I filled a Pete's Pirate Life glass of whiskey to give the character, the subject, in this case Kiefer Sutherland, a bit of a prop and a reason and a story as to why he might have been sitting there, what he might have been doing.
As menial as this seems, it's just a whiskey glass, but having a prop in the photo kind of gives off the impression that, oh, they're probably in a bar, and it gives context to the scene. Sometimes it's handy to give someone a prop just so they feel more comfortable. All right, so if I was taking a photo of Brandon here, I mean, maybe like, can you lean against the glass? It's the thing is, and this would be a fine shot, but there's just not really a moment where this feels natural. Like, there's no reason you'd be standing there. If you've got someone out front and you're just taking a portrait and they're sitting there, people sometimes feel like a bit weird and they don't know what to do with themselves. So you notice there's an awkwardness. You just need something where if you give them even just like a coffee mug, they can take a sip, if it's an actual coffee, or they can at least hold it and fidget with it and pose, and it gives just something to do. So now you're kind of just chilling. All right, so now we got Brandon leaning against the window, so we got a bit of reflection on the left side. He's got his prop. Nice. Sometimes dogs just walk by, and that would be a great prop for a photo. Hello.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Jay's shop is naturally very busy. There's lots of textures, and I love textures in photos, but when you've got smooth brick, cracked brick, chipped brick, different colors of brick, wood bars, steel, metal, so many different flavors of texture. There were even candles in the walls. You might not have seen all of those details. It can be a bit much, so we used some haze to break up the background and give distance between Kiefer and all that texture. Jay, who was hiding behind the bar, activating the haze button, he had to really lay it on way more, and we had it about 3 feet behind Kiefer, and even still, it doesn't look like it did in real life. Lots to unpack in this video. Maybe you should just pause and make a coffee. You know what? It's early in the morning right now, and I think I'll do the same.
Gosh, who would have thought this neon sign light was so good? Scissors under this.
All right, this video is brought to you by Squarespace.
An all-in-one platform where you can make a website for your business, for your portfolio, for your clients.
Much like this palm tamper, it's easy and fast. You can log in and get great customer service, have podcasts, have protected client areas, and those are just the basic things now, because they've stepped it up since then.
And the best part is you could get it done before I'm done making a latte. So many templates to choose from, easy to switch from if you get bored like I do. Make an online store, sell digital products, sell physical products. But also, they've introduced something called design intelligence.
2 decades worth of industry-leading design expertise. Do you know how hard that was to remember?
Basically, design intelligence lets you build a more beautiful, personalized website that's going to be tailored to your needs.
This is the hard part. Now, if you want to get a bit of a discount, say 10% off, you can head over to squarespace.com/McKinnon and save yourself 10% off your first purchase. That's going to be tasty, just like your new website. Also, don't judge my latte art, okay? That's like, I haven't done it in like 3 years. It's a work in progress, okay? I understand. Like I said, you could get a website done faster than I could probably pour a decent Rosetta.
So we've got our location, we've got our lights, we've got our practicals set up everywhere. It's looking beautiful. I put the stool exactly where I knew I wanted Kiefer to sit, and then I taped down the feet of the stool so that if it was moved, I'd know exactly where to put it back. I threw a sandbag over it. I taped down my light cables. I don't want Kiefer tripping on his way behind the bar. I want it to be streamlined. When it's time to take his photo, he walks around the bar, sits down where the chair is, looks at me, done. Remember, this whole thing's gotta happen in less than 5 minutes. There is no time to adjust the chair. There's no time to trip over a cable. The only time I have should be spent behind the lens. The focal range I used was a 65mm. I shot the film on 800 speed film. Again, I needed the light, so I had to shoot 800 speed film. I needed an additional light as well as all the window light from behind me, lighting him from the front. Now, you only get about 10 shots in a medium format. I think I only shot about 8. I didn't want to have him posing and moving all over. Again, less than 5 minutes. Dead on pose, looking to the side, lean for me, play with your hat a little bit, bam, good. And then I brought the wide lux. I brought the wide lux because I'm on a big wide lux kick right now and I'd like to have a gallery show of wide prints and film. It's something I plan to do. I'll say it out loud now so that it happens. But I thought it might break the ice because I know that he's done a movie with Jeff Bridges. Have you ever seen Jeff Bridges work?
Yeah.
But I still asked him if he'd done a movie with Jeff Bridges anyway to get some rapport going, even though I knew the answer.
So he uses a
I
wide
did a
lux
movie
camera.
with him called The Vanishing, and he made us a book off the wide lux.
And then he recognized the camera I was holding. He's like, oh, you have one.
I brought that.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, inspired by Jeff, and I just thought we would do a couple.
And there was a comment in the video. You can see his demeanor change in that exact moment when we made a connection. Then he gave me some of these shots and he started getting a bit more silly and a bit more fun with the wide lux shots, which allowed me to get like 1, 2, or 3. And then it just felt right to end the shoot there. I didn't want to keep going, so I just said, thanks so much. And that was all in less than 4 minutes. Mission success. Now, was I stressed during all of this? Absolutely. He sits down, he puts his hat on, he looks to the side, and I needed to meter my light. I asked him to look at me again, and he said, I will just start shooting.
Can you look straight at me just so I
I
can
will
see?
just start shooting.
And that made me nervous. I got a little nervous in that moment.
I felt my hands shake a bit. I was like, snap out of it, dude. Just snap out of it.
And he's a trained professional. Of course, this man has been photographed his entire life, countless times. So of course he knows to change the pose. So he was just trying to give me options. She's trying to give me variety. And I respect that. So I let it throw me off. The second shot of the roll is where the magic started happening. But I remember the camera blinking at me and giving me different readings, but I was not paying any attention to it. And I would say that is something I learned of myself in this shoot is I need to still take my time. Because all that prep and all of this is pointless if I disregard things that are happening around me because I'm stressed out or I'm just trying to get the job done too quickly. One of the things I did is I made the light warmer, which was a silly idea because I had spent the whole day prior dialing in the light, getting it to exactly where I wanted. I had a shot of Jay, it looked great, I was happy with it, and the shots I got of Kiefer are great, but they're too warm for my liking. I prefer my test shot of Jay. So why I changed the light last second, I don't know. But there was still margin left for error. So the next time I do this, I'll know to slow it down a little bit and hopefully create the environment where I don't feel rushed now that it is my subject and I'm allowed to take the time to make those mistakes and correct them in the moment. Here's some of the overexposed shots from the wide lux. I've sent many rolls through the wide lux now and not really had any issues. But these first few, it's almost at times like I forgot how to even use the camera. I found that interesting. So to me, that just means I need more practice. I need more practice to know that, like the back of my hand, no matter what you say, what the conditions are, I will deliver when it's time to shoot. And I feel like I got there about 95%, but that last 5% could still use some work. And that's okay, and that excites me because there's always room to improve no matter what level you're at in photography. There is always room to get better. When it came to editing, not much editing was needed. When you get your film shots back, they're scanned in a flat profile, TIFF files. So most of the time, all I need to do is add a little bit of contrast back. This is where I can tweak the warmth a little bit if I want to. But when it comes to editing film scans, I don't like to typically do a whole lot because shooting film, the whole point is getting the look of the film stock. If you're adding presets and really layering on edits on top of that, there was probably really no point in shooting film to begin with. You've heard the saying before, never meet your heroes, but I've been fortunate enough now to meet several of my heroes, and they are all awesome, and they've all lived up to the hype and measured up. Kiefer was very warm, welcoming, patient and kind, total rock star vibe, equally intimidating, but probably just because I've watched him on screen since I was young, but he made it easy for me. Now, if I had more time, I would have done things probably a bit different. I'd probably shoot it fully digital with pro photo lights and a bit more of a theme with some outfit changes changes on location somewhere. So it's a bit more advanced. There's adding more layers to it. This was kind of the best I could come up with the time that I had. I had gotten the call from Jay that Kiefer would be coming through town, considering he's just coming through to pick up hats, not necessarily coming to get his portrait taken. I think we did a great job, and I'm absolutely over the moon with that portrait. I gotta print it and put it on this back wall because it absolutely needs to be a staple in the back of my videos. So thank you so much to everyone that watched it. The comments on that video were so unbelievably uplifting. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I want to make more of those. I'm fired up. I'm feeling good. And Kiefer Sutherland, let's run it back, dude. Let's do it again. What's the next shot?
October 9th, 2024. It seems to really help when I just start something rather than sitting around thinking about it. The creative spark inside starts to fire more that way, it seems. I can see what I've done, and it's easy to see where I need to go. When I'm just sitting here trying to will the whole thing to existence before I even start it, I could be here with nothing for weeks. You can't always just see the whole project from beginning to end. I almost always, though, have enough to start.